So welcome everybody. As Lee said earlier, really great to see some new people and some fantastic way to start with all those ideas. Just get my notes, there we go. So we'll be taking a break halfway and we will also stay on the call at the end. So if anyone has any questions or just wants to check in on something, Lee and I will be around, and Jude as well at the end. So we'll start with some updates as we always do. And then we have three, that are going to do some sharing today, which is really exciting. So Janet Gray has joined us from East Lancs Hospitals, and Shana Watts and Emma Saunders will be sharing some of the work from our South East Coast Ambulance Service. We'll go into break and then we'll do breakout rooms as we normally do, because I know that that's where we really value, and we've given a big chunk of time to that today. Then any reflections and just signposting to next events. So what we always do for anybody who's new is I normally just pop this up. These were our original sort of shared commitment when we started, that we contracted around this. So I do always just like to do a quick check-in, get a sense that everybody's happy to sign up to these today. So we're all about being present and curious, participating and sharing, listening actively in respect, and being creative and solution focused. I feel like we've already demonstrated all of these values today so far. But hopefully that's okay. So, information sharing and updates. I hand over to you, Lee.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, so this is always where we like to showcase some of the new things we're putting into TED. A lot of this is based on your feedback as well, so it's great to be able to show some of these things to you today. I'll just take over the screen, Sam. Pop this up. Everyone see that? Is that okay? Yeah. Fab. So just some of our latest toolkit resources. So first off, there's a lot of appetite for resources for remote working teams, and thinking about how do we build engagement with teams who don't necessarily have that opportunity to come together in person so much, and that can definitely be a barrier for a lot of teams. So we've created a resource around really just ideas that remote team leaders can use to help keep things energized within the teams, keep things moving along, and just some ideas in there. But this is the first of a few resources that we're currently working on. So as you can see, there are just some different things that you can put in there. I'll not go through them all, but they are on the website, so please feel free to use the search feature in the website and find some of these. Next one, if it will just let me go on to the next one. Next one is another idea from the Amazing If podcast that Sam and I have been listening to. Some great ideas coming from that. But this idea is around a facts and feelings workshop for a team. So the intention here is that a team will use this activity to reflect on facts or things that might have happened in the last 6 to 12 months. So these might be changes in the team, there might be events that have happened, there might be challenges they've encountered. So the idea is that individuals in the team will write down the things that resonate with them, that really stand out in their memory. Then they'll reflect on the types of feelings that evoked, whether it be anxiety, or whether it be maybe frustration, or it might be things that they want to celebrate and they'd like to replicate in the future. So it might be around what was really fun, or what really energized us, what did I get real satisfaction from. So again, the intention is that team members will do this as individuals before feeding back to the team. So step 3 of this is that the team will explore what are those key events for us, what can we learn from that, and those things that really did energize us, how can we replicate that, and how can we make sure that we give ourselves opportunities for those things that really energize us as a team. Step 4 then is about looking ahead and thinking around what have we got on the horizon, what can we use from what we've learned over the last year, 6 months maybe, and how can we really build on that to learn together and grow together as a team. So I think that's a really good one, and similar to that team retro activity that we talked about last month. Okay, next one. This one we've built in collaboration with our health and wellbeing team, but something that is really pertinent to a lot of NHS teams at the moment, definitely. And this is around navigating team burnout or moral injury as well. And in here, we've really used this as a bit of an information resource for team leaders. And they might use this as a bit of a personal resource, potentially. It might be team leaders who are dealing with difficult ethical challenges, balancing multiple multiple different priorities, or it might be used as a team resource which helps teams reflect on what are those pressure points where they do have to make perhaps difficult ethical decisions which could have potential to cause moral injury. So in here we've got some information around how to identify those pressure points, what sorts of things you can do to create an inclusive and supportive culture in your team, and there's even some signposting to where you can get help and support, whether it be internally in your own organisation or external resources in there as well. So again, something which we think will be really useful for different teams using that across the NHS. Next one, I'll see if I can bring this up. Next sort of downloadable guide is a top tips resource for building team resilience. This is one which is quite close to my own heart. Those of you that don't know, beginning of last year, I did some research into team resilience following the pandemic. And a lot of what I was finding from the teams that I was speaking to was that teams who used opportunities to reflect on what made them resilient, reflect on challenges that they've been through, that helped them build resilience and confidence going into future uncertainty maybe, or future challenges they may face. So this resource is really around highlighting the things that help to build that resilient team culture, that help you to feel more equipped to deal with things that may be unexpected, or things that might put pressure on the team or a challenge. So I'll just give you a quick flick through here, but I think we've got about 20 top tips in there, but something that I feel is really important, and something we've talked about in recent lunch and learns and TED events that we've put on, is this just really grounding team leaders that it's important to be realistic about building things like culture change, resilience into your team culture, that it's not going to change overnight. So managing those expectations and thinking, how can we build this continuous improvement approach? And really that sort of exemplifies the ethos of TED in thinking, how do we make those incremental gains? How do we learn from what we're experiencing and continue to grow and move in the right direction so that we can be resilient and build on the things which the environment throws at us. Okay, so those are our sort of workshop resources. I'll just scroll along to another. Can I just check? Can you see the slides I've got up now? Yeah, marvelous, that's come up. So I'll put this in sort of slide sort of form, but something that is currently a work in progress. I'm working with, you may remember Kate Holt from one of our previous deep dives, who's our culture lead at Lancs Teaching, but we're looking around creating some resources around a zero tolerance culture. So this might be around how do we challenge perhaps behaviours which we want to adopt this zero tolerance approach to, and this can be used in different ways. For some teams it might be around how do we create that zero tolerance culture around behaviours in our own team. Sometimes it might be how do we let others know what behaviours are. We do have that zero tolerance approach, so it might be patients and families, service users, it might even be other teams. So this resource is really just a slide deck to help navigate that type of conversation. So a team leader can use this to ask the right questions and prompt those thoughts around what do we want to have zero tolerance over, and how do we manage it? How do we build that into our way of working as a team? So just a snapshot there. As I say, these are available on TED now. Apart from the zero tolerance one, that's still getting some tweaks, but they will be available very shortly. And you can use the search feature in TED to find all of those resources. And I'll hand back to Sam there. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Lee. That's great. Just the last couple of things for us. So just to remind you that we have done 2 lunch and learns recently. We did send up the follow-up resources. I know that the business case one, I think, went down really well. I can see lots of trusts have been using that and getting in touch as they're starting to develop their business case for further funding, which has been great. And then we also did the continuous improvement one. We've started to record them as well. So hopefully, if you haven't, let me know and I can resend you them. But hopefully they're a useful resource that you can dip back into if needed. And then just a final housekeeping reminder. I think it was us looking at our own data that kind of prompted this. Around sort of keeping your team leader lists up to date where you can. So I'm just going to talk you through a few little bits around this. So regularly checking the data is important, and each trust does have that responsibility to sort of maintain your own trust data and make sure that team leaders who are on there are ones that are employed by you. So for us, what we're going to try and do is sort of use our regular points for NQPS and NSS, where we get a data run from our data team, and that will give us an opportunity to just cross-reference with our TED team leader list versus the one that's on the sort of establishment. And I've just got like this little formula that I use so that I just run it down the list, and any that come up red, I'll know then that they need to be removed. And I'm happy to talk through how you do a formula if that helps. We've got 340 now, so I definitely need a formula. I'm not doing that by hand. But if you've only got a few at the moment, it's probably not a big deal. But once you do get bigger, let me know, and I can perhaps do a little video on how to use a formula like that. So that's my top tip. Maybe putting them in your diary or Outlook as well, because it's one of those tasks that's boring, but it is sort of useful for you to do. And then the TED reports can be transferred to another person. So if a team leader has left, you can suspend their account. So let me start there. I'm going too fast. So if, for example, Lee was leaving, if I go to my administration panel, oh, actually, I can't do Lee because, right, let me pick somebody else. If, for example, let's have a look. Who's not an admin? I'm trying to think of someone in our team that's not an admin. It doesn't matter. I can still show you how to do it. So if our colleague here was leaving or has left and I wanted to remove the access to TED, I find them by going to the administration panel, going to the user management section, and then finding the person that you need. So you could type their name in if they weren't at the top of the list. And here we go. So we're going to remove Stephen Smith. So what I need to do is click on the I button. And my button here is to suspend the user. That will just pause his account so that that person can't access it anymore. Now, what we also want you to look out for here is if they have a survey, either live or one that they've done previously, it will be available here. And the first thing that you need to do is transfer that survey. So if you know that there is a new team leader, they've been trained up and you can just transfer it to that person, that's fine. But as a short term, what you can do is transfer it to yourself so that that TED doesn't get lost, it doesn't get deleted. But when a new team leader does come in play, you can then pass that TED on to them. I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute. Just so you know, it does affect your figures a little bit here. So for example, if this person had got a TED, it would currently be linked to estates and facilities, and that would mean that they have one TED in their system. By moving it to mine, it is now then going to be in corporate. So it's not ideal, but that is the best way to ensure that we don't lose a TED report in the process. The other option is if you have a demo site. So some of our clients have set up a demo account so that they can, a demo division, so that they can use that for testing. You could also put it onto your demo division as well. I'm happy to pick this up in detail at our next client catch up if that's helpful. I just wanted to touch upon it for now. So if I needed to transfer a TED, I go back to my dashboard here, and perhaps this team, the team leader has left. So if I go to my three dots here and my edit button here with the pencil, and Lee's leaving, I can just simply click myself here, and that will transfer, if I press edit, over to me. So I know now that that TED is saved, and I can then go ahead and suspend Lee if I needed to. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm just going to pause to check that there is no absolute confusion there. Okay, so we've looked at how you can transfer a report to another user. If you're a trust admin, which I think most of you will be, you can suspend a team leader or a divisional leader. You can't suspend a super user because they're on the same level of access as you. So you can only suspend a user that's got lower access than you. What you need to do in that instance is contact us, and we could suspend a trust admin for you. So don't worry about remembering all that. I just kind of wanted to highlight it. And then if you do come to a point where you do need to do some suspending of people, or you need to move some TED reports around, let us know. We can always help. But I just wanted to flag that as a process that you need to be aware of. And if you need any help, come to us. That makes sense, hopefully. Fabulous. Right. Let's move forward. So is there any questions before we move into our collaborate sharing? Any kind of just things that might be on your mind or anything that's coming up? Oh, yes, we will share the podcast. Yeah, no problem, Becky. Well, if there are no other questions, we will move forward. We've got Janet Gray joining us first. Janet, would you be happy to share your slides? I do have them from what you sent. It was up to you if you prefer to run them yourself. Just checking in the list. Hi, Janet.
Hi. Hello, everybody. For some reason, I was just thrown out of the system and I've just had to log back on.
Do you want to go second and give you a minute just to get your system set up?
No, I'm fine now. It just absolutely, the screen just went blank, but I'm back online. We'll not be beaten by technology.
I love it. I'd have my knickers in a twist. So
oh no,
I love how calm and collected
oh,
you are.
how many times have you been shouting, "Hello, Janet"?
Just once, don't worry.
Oh.
Well, if you're happy, I will let you share screen, but I do have the slides if you want me to pull them up instead.
Yes, please. Would you mind? Because I'm sure we probably will have a problem sometimes opening between organisations. We struggle sometimes to open some of the resources that you kindly send us.
No worries. Oh, I'm so sorry. You'll have to let us know if that happens, because I don't know. One of the ways I find easiest to transfer, which isn't helpful, is a PDF, because that always goes through, but then it's not helpful for people who want to edit it. So let's think of, if there is a problem with those, do let me know. Right, you just shout next slide and I certainly will. On.
Oh, hello everybody. Yeah, I just thought it'd be interesting to share a little bit about how we're doing TED team leader training here at ELHT, and it's all based on the information that we received from the training with Lee initially, and I know we did deliver it in-house initially, and we've just sort of tweaked it a little bit. I've just put my stamp on it, which is very childlike, but actually I'm trying to just make this a little bit fun and interactive for our colleagues. So if you're happy to change the slide, that would be great. So I start with an icebreaker. We start with a little quiz, name that TED. And in fact, nobody in the last team leader training has actually got all, is it 6 of them? So I don't know if anybody on the call can name 4, 5, 6 of them. I don't know.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Rupert, Care Bear, Paddington, Yogi Bear, and the one from the American one, I can't remember. Sorry, 5 out of 6.
Yeah, Fozzie Bear,
Fozzie
yes,
Bear.
from Sesame
Fozzie
Street,
Bear.
isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. But I just find that as a little introduction, and people have sort of, I was thinking, just have a go, and people either think it's a bit childish, but actually got really competitive. And I do have a pen that they have they all get a pen at the end, so the prize is they all get a pen. And then I haven't actually put the slide in, but then I also do, which is the correct definition of TED. And I have 3 different definitions of TED. And again, it's just trying to get people connected with it. Also to be aware that they do know a little bit more about it. They actually know what it's about. They know what the correct definition is, because all the 3 of them are correct definitions. But I just say in our circumstance where we're here today, which is the correct definition of TED. So that's just another way to just ease everybody in together and get us all on board. And then the next slide, please. And again, I've tried to make it as interactive as possible. And what I've done, I've just laminated on an A3 all the 8 themes of TED. And then what to do on the day, I've also got the 8 themes in a little pack for each team leader. And what we do is spend a bit of time just looking and thinking about couple of areas do we think we'd like to focus on in your TED. And again, it's just giving people time to become familiar with it, to be familiar with the 8 themes, to sort of give them the thinking time of, wonder what the theme will be. And then they just sort of have a chat about it, but just chat around the board. And people just say, yeah, I think mine might be about team purpose. We haven't got a team purpose. And it's just, again, seeing similarities with other team leaders, differences, and then just bringing in that idea of this might be your focus. However, also be aware that when you get your TED report, that might completely change to one of the other themes. So again, it's just making it a bit tangible for them and interactive. And again, another way of just embedding TED a little bit more concrete for them, with it being less abstract, and that seems to be going down well as well. So I quite enjoy that activity, so I brought that in as well. And again, they're just highlighting areas of priority, which again, as I've said, might change. And I think that's also good to know, that sometimes they might be coming in with an idea we definitely need to do about communication, or we want to do about leadership, and it might actually be something else. Next slide, please. And then I have these slides every now and again popping up with whose TED is it? And the answer is our TED. Just embedding that ownership, that it is a team effort. It's about, I used to be a nurse, and I would probably sit there expecting the team leader to come up with all the ideas, because that's just the way we've worked for a long time. So again, also bringing in that idea that it's going to be a change of mindset. People are going to be a bit, not as clear about their having to be engaged in the. So just the idea of whose TED is it, and it's our TED. And then I also have a little card that if they want, they can take away to remind themselves. And I've got this idea from Rachel Rogers, who's a TED lead, because when we did our coaching course, she had a little card laminated for us about a pickaxe, and whose pickaxe is it when you're coaching? And this is team coaching, isn't it? It's not our pickaxe, it's the coach's pickaxe. And this again is just a little reminder of, it's actually our team. It's not just me, it's a coaching approach is coming throughout. We're here together to engage the team, and yeah, it's our TED. And it's quite interesting, because sometimes I see some team leaders in the training centre here delivering some bespoke TED team leader team building, and I'll say, whose TED is it? Our TED. So I'm hoping that little strap line and our little TED will just, again, help them as an aid memoir to remember that it's not only theirs, and also they have a TED coach. We assign a TED coach to our team leaders. So again, they're also there to support the person who's the sponsor, who's sponsored the team leader to attend the team leader training and to help them sign up to this approach. Then they've also got those as well. And they've got each other. We're finding quite a few peer support as well through the team leader training, swapping numbers. And again, it's not just their TED, it's a wider than just their team as well TED approach. Thank you. The next slide. And then I've created a team leader booklet with all the information and the many questions that Lee and the team have answered for me, because I've been to and froing with Sam and Lee and team with the questions that have come up from our team leaders training, for the initial team leader training. So the questions are answered, the Q&As are actually frequently asked questions and answers are in the team leader booklet. And this sort of, I give a hard copy on the day, and then we send an online copy, because within it there's quite a lot of information, and I've structured my team leader training and the booklet around the booklet. So it sort of flows, so they don't get this in straight away, they get this when I'm ready to give it them, or else they'd just be sat looking through it. But it's actually it's their copy, and it's their way of connecting with TED again, and connecting not just to the PowerPoint, because we're looking on page 5 for this, so they're at the PowerPoint and they're also looking through the booklet. So again, becoming familiar with TED and a bit more interactive as well. I think the next slide shows the contents. Yeah, I mean, you probably can't read that, I can't, but we have quite a lot of contents in here. For instance, we've got information required prior to setting up TED. So how many is minimum, maximum? Is it a real team? That sort of information. Does a team leader fill this in? So again, things that they might forget on the team leader training day, they've got something to refer back to. And then we've got setting up the TED, and I think the next slide shows the screenshots that that we've put in there in the booklet for when they go away to have a go. And again, Rachel's great idea was ask the attendees to sort of prompt me on what my next step is as I'm doing, you know, I'm setting up a dummy report on the TED tool. So again, they're actually asking me to follow the steps. So again, it's a part of that journey started for them. And we did have a full day booked out initially for the TED team leader training in hopes that the team leaders would have a go at setting up their own TED on the day, but team leaders coming out for 9 till 1 has been a real gift to get them in the room, so that hasn't happened. However, they have started with this, and we go through, you know, what's the team name and etc. So all the little blips that we've had questions to and fro in, we've sort of trying to address in this training. And we've also, Rachel's completed a team coach booklet. So it's very similar to this, almost identical. Because again, we had quite a number of TED coaches asking us the questions that I then asked Lee to get the answers. So if the TED coach has a booklet, they're aware of some of these. They feel more useful to be able to be the first contact as well than the team here at ELHT team development inbox. They can actually contact their TED coach who will be armed with this information to be able to support and help them, which helps both, doesn't it? It helps the whole process. We also have links. I send it online as well because there's links to feedback and facilitation skills, because again, for some team leaders that might be new, and we do talk about facilitation skills in the session and what should be your experience in the past and what learning can you bring to that. But I've put a link into the NHS, I can't remember what the website's called, but there's all about facilitation skills. So that's just another information for them and link. And then I've also put the links in for your e-learning as well. So they've got that if they've any other questions. I've also completed that fabulous plan your next steps form that you have. I think that's amazing, and we use that here at ELHT when hopefully when the coaches use that when they're having communication of set times with the team leaders. And it really is an easy way to follow the steps. And as I point out at the team leader training, they've actually completed quite a number of those steps already by being in the room. So again, they already feel like they're doing the TED, they're on that journey. And we also have the complete the team leader training. No, sorry, the baseline measurements in the team leader training. So that then enables me to scan that in. So we have that. So again, I print off the expression of interest form, take that to the team leader training, so they can have a look back at why they've started it. Why were they wanting to do TED? And then they can go through the measuring the impact in the team leader training. So again, they're almost engrossed in their TED, they're chatting about it. They're sort of honing where they're going with the process. And then we normally at the 6-month review has asked them to fill in the post-TED measurements. But Kim in our team, absolutely fabulous asset to our team, is going to be sending out a Microsoft evaluation form so we can collate that data, and she's going to work her magic with it. And that's all I can say about that, because I'm not magic with statistics and things. Yeah, so I think the next slide, please. Yeah, so in a nutshell, I've just completed this like you did on the team leader training, one of the collaboratives. So what works for us is face-to-face training. It really gives the team leaders that space and headspace away from the work area. And the collaborative learning that goes on, and the sharing and the offloading in that confidential space, and the fact that actually I'm not alone with the challenges, because we do the challenges and the benefits of leading a team. And they've already started the TED process, because they'll start saying, can I just ask a question about this? That's coming up in the next couple of slides. You know, that they're already making the way in the process. I feel handling and touching the booklet. I'm very old-fashioned and I am a hands-on person, but I think, and completing the text, the activity, it gives them that ownership. You know, it becomes less abstract, does TED, and it's more concrete. And I put the 8 themes activity there. We usually have small numbers up to 5, and I think that's great because there's a lot of sharing, there's a lot of offloading, there's a lot of that support. They're getting support from each other and they're being heard, and I think that's great. And then completing the team's pre-TED baseline form. Again, they're starting the process in the session. And having the team leader booklet as a hard copy and an electronic copy is a resource and an aid memoir as well. And it helps to make the flow, instead of them having to ask the coach or us, or we have to ask yourselves at Lang's teaching. They're not having to stop and start and ask questions because they're stuck. They've got something there they can refer to. The challenges are time to attend, but we've had 15 come through and they've attended 9 till 1. They've come off site to the one site that I've been able to use a room, and they've managed to come. Some have said they wanted the session virtual, but then on the day they've actually said, no, this has been really great to just be with other team leaders. Because like everything, we sometimes feel we're the only one going through these things until we actually get in a room with other people. The tips we can share is the PowerPoint presentation and using the team leader booklet together. I think that really reinforces the learning. I'm not saying anything here that you're not aware of. I know that. The theme throughout the team leader is whose TED is it? It's our TED. And I do tend to have a chat before the team leader training with the team leaders, and I think that allays a bit of fears. It's a face, and we've got that relationship built already, and it gives me a bit of insight as well when I'm looking at people's names. Oh yeah, that's so and so from so and so team, and I can have a look at the baseline measures. I can have a look at the reason for TED, so it helps me as well. Yeah, and what else tips I can share is some of the what works for us notes on the notes. So yeah, what works for us. And then finally, any questions? And thank you for listening. And I just love TED. Yeah. And the thing that the thing that I'm enthused about TED, having been a nurse, critical care nurse for 18 years, is that slide that I use in the team leader training, when all of a sudden you press the button and this slide comes up and it says about mortality rate, how that is improved with engaged teams, and that it gets me every time. I get emotional because it gets me here, because I think this is so important. Yeah, that is important. Yeah.
No, that's something that we talked about this week, wasn't it? Or last week, Lee, when you ran that session for our wider OD team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find it's good to think of something which resonates with the types of teams that you're talking about. So certainly if it's clinical team leaders that you're talking to, actually making those links to patient success rates and definitely mortality rate, it really sort of highlights just how important it is. Because sometimes it's easy not to make that connection and to deprioritize engagement because there's 101 other things that teams are dealing with. So really sort of highlighting how it is important, and sometimes getting engagement right will solve a lot of those other challenges that you have, and it will make those things easier to manage if your team's engaged and you're in it together. But yeah, great point.
What resonated as well for me, Janet, was I think you made a comment around when your experience as a nurse, and maybe people do expect the team leader to come up with all the suggestions or the answers, because I'm certainly feeling that at the moment when I'm interacting with different people, that it is about shifting that mindset, isn't it, around actually getting people involved and giving people a voice. That again is also coming up in the case studies as well.
Because that's been the custom and practice. That's usually been the custom and culture and practice, you know. And I usually suggest that maybe doing the review and celebrate success is something that they could start with, because just to get people engaged with the process and that shift of, you know, we're doing this together. Yeah.
Definitely. I just popped in a few questions when I was thinking. So yeah, any questions for Janet from anybody here? Any ideas that's prompted with you, or any activities that you also do that you bespoke? Because the whole purpose of the train the trainer scheme is that you bespoke it, you make it right for your own context. Does anybody have anything else that they want to add or share there? Hi, Linda.
Hi, Janet. Thank you for that. That was fabulous. Really enthused me back into TED, even though I am very enthused of TED as well. Can I just check the TED leader booklet that you give out? Is that one you've designed yourself?
Yes.
Would you be willing to share that?
Yeah, we could share that. I'm sure Rachel's on the call. She's giving me a thumbs. Will you give me a thumbs up, Rachel?
Please,
Yeah,
Rachel.
and any of the suggestions, any of the little tips I've put in, again, just absolutely. I'm on about sharing. Yeah.
I'm just interested because we've not been able to do any of our TED training face to face yet, and I always want to do training face to face. So I think what you've put today would be a strong motivation for us to kind of put that back onto the table as well. So thank you for that.
Yeah, fabulous. Yeah.
I think Sam from Gateshead as well will probably be sharing something. I don't think she can attend today. She's done some things around TED pledges as well, and it's something that I was supposed to do in July and haven't done, but we'll be focusing on. So there'll be more as well, sharing as well. So thank you so much, Janet and Rachel, for your generosity there. I'm sure Sam will also share it on next session. And we've got some people in the chat as well. Come on in, Becky.
Thank you, Janet, for sharing. I too was keen to ask if you would share the booklet, and also I just love that simple setting up guidance, because when they've been on the e-learning and they've watched the video, almost then I don't think they're going to revisit it. So it'd be great to have something for them to actually physically take away for when they're at that point where they can do it. The other thing I was just thinking about is for us, we absolutely have used digital, and I miss face-to-face training, but it's a challenge for our geography. But what benefits it's given us running it via MS Teams is I've created like a connection space for them to they join a MS Teams channel before they come on the training that connects them as a peer group, and then I have resources for them to access post training when they're ready. And what I was finding, and we've not been doing it as long as you guys have, is the commitment beyond the training was a challenge to actually get them active and doing it. So I've now got them as part of the training session to give a bit of a commitment and a timeline for when they're going to be getting active, which is helping focus them and forward plan, so that it doesn't become, I suppose, transactional, that they've come on a training session, they enjoyed it, but then they've not gone on to actually do anything with it. So yeah, I'm starting to wonder whether we could do a bit of hybrid face-to-face sessions where we can, and continue with the digital. And you also prompted me to think, oh my gosh, baseline evaluation, that's an area that we've not got nailed yet. And I liked the fact that you were doing that pre-session and then midway review. It's on my to-do list as something that I need to get sorted too. So thanks for prompting me on that.
No, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for, and take on board your comments about online as well and the benefits of that and things that you've put the MST Teams channel. I think that's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
We've been quite surprised as well on how many. So we've just set up our TED team leader community, and we invited, I think it's 340, 330 team leaders to like a face-to-face tea, coffee, and I think it's the cake, Lee. But we were so shocked at how many people signed up. I think it was 50, 60 people, and B, how many people who couldn't sign up but said they were interested as well. So I think I shared in our last lunch and learn sort of outputs that we sent around, just the invite that we'd sent to people, what it's all the wording from that. So we'll let you know how it goes in November at our quarterly deep dive. We're really hopeful that it's going to be very similar to our sort of coffee catch up. So it will be digital, but every quarter I think Lee's decided that we want to do like a face-to-face element as well. And we're just doing it in our restaurant. So it's really central and it feels really open. And then if anybody else is going past and like, oh, what's going on over there? We're all about the building momentum by people just sort of word of mouth and a bit more of an organic growth. I'll hand over to Janet, please.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Janet. That's been really, really helpful because we're just embarking on our journey. So we've got our first face-to-face training session with some of our department managers, a group of 5. So I think we're obviously following in your footsteps without even realising it from that perspective. When we've spoken to them all, which we've also done beforehand to give them a bit of a briefing, the consistent thing that we've heard back, which people want including, is some support around facilitating the meetings and the events thereafter. So I'd be really interested into the website that you signpost people to, because people talk about feeling slightly more comfortable in operational meetings, but this is obviously something very, very different. And one of the ideas that we've come up with to try out is to use 1 or 2 of the activities in the workshop as a way of people participating in it, but also then being able to unpick it from a facilitation perspective. So there's a couple, there's the circle of influence, circle of control one, where we can do it in the context of them leading a TED. What's in your control? What's in your influence? What are the things that you need to leave behind? So that's one of our thoughts that we have at the moment. But I know that's one of the thing which people have said, that's the bit I'd like some more support on, because yes, I can work my way through an electronic process, but actually I'm facilitating a very different kind of meeting thereafter. So
yeah, great. Yeah, good idea.
That's brilliant. And we'd love to welcome back any thoughts and reflections as you start to sort of pilot that and test that. And Lee, shall we take that away as well? Sort of, where can we offer some support in that space as well? Emma, over to you.
Absolutely.
Lovely, thank you, and thanks Janet for taking us through that. That looks really, really great. Yeah, fantastic. And I love the whole whose TED is it? I think that really does land the message that it's for you and your team to do this work, to do this piece. And I just thought, because there is some people on the call who are saying we're still doing ours virtually, so I thought I'd just chip in really, because we do ours virtually just for practicalities, because we're based over 4 sites and we're a large trust. And so a few things to share in terms of how we do that. There's 2 of us who do the training, so I co-facilitate with my colleague Ollie. And what that allows us to do is we've embedded a clip from Professor Michael West, who's talking about the difference between real teams and pseudo teams. So that's been a nice addition, because I think that's a bit which sometimes causes difficulty in terms of what do we mean by real team. So and of course it's his research, it's his work, so it's nice to be able to see him. So we've incorporated that. Ollie also sets up a dummy account, so he shows how you set up your questionnaire, etc., and then goes onto the platform. This is how it looks. These are the resources. So that's been a real nice asset as well. And then of course we've also tweaked our slide deck, so we've put in screenshots as well. So all delegates get a copy of that afterwards, so they've got that to refer to. I suppose really that is the booklet, if you like, although I'm so eager to get my paws on your booklet as well, Janet. That'd be superb. And we set up a Teams channel for everybody who's attended, and they're all in that same Teams channel. So that's that network to reach out, ask questions, network just as we're doing. We do some virtual breakout rooms as well, and we've also used Beyond to do a 2-minute clip. We were told 2 minutes is great just to keep everybody engaged without losing interest. We've done a 2-minute Beyond video, which we share as part of the pre-reading to introduce TED and give everybody a flavour of what it is, and that's landed really well also. So yeah, just sharing a few things that we're doing, a few things that have worked really well. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. That has been really helpful. I've been writing notes. Are we still recording this bit, shortly. Oh, fab.
Yep.
I'll type them up later then rather than now. Thank you so much, everybody. Keep them coming, and as you do explore, create new ideas. I'm a big believer in I learn most from when I get it wrong, or when I sort of try something, it doesn't quite work, so then I tweak it. So really helpful to see the learning as well as the successes as well. Thank you so much. What I'll do is I will invite, if everybody's happy, thank you again, Janet, Shana and Emma to take us through their approach to TED. Shall I remove my screen? And I don't know if you're sharing screen, but feel free to if you like, Emma and Shana. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to share. We'll both be sharing our screens just a second. So it's lovely to meet you all. I'm Shana Watts, and I've got Emma on the call as well. Emma, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah,
hi all. I start gassing on.
Hi all, I'm Emma Saunders. I'm the Employee Experience and Engagement Manager at CCAM, working with Shana, and I'll be coming in second to talk about our dashboard that we use.
So yeah, so I'm Shana. I'm an OD advisor here at South East Coast Ambulance Service, and actually just listening to what you were just saying as well about making mistakes in order to learn from them, I think is definitely part of our journey of using TED. So we actually started using TED or were introduced to TED in January, but I picked this up in April just gone, and during that time we've had quite a lot of learning from using the tool. The first part of using the tool, so the first phase of it was very much based on getting teams to use the tool, see use the tool and see how it's going, and a little bit of learning from us. And I think a lot of learning came from that experience. And number one of that is that when a team is not inspired to use the tool, it doesn't land. We get this idea, we're busy, everybody in the trust is busy. There is not a team that you will find in the NHS, I don't think, that will say, no, I'm not busy, I'm fine, I can, I've got plenty of time for culture or anything team related. So I think that was some of our key learnings, but also the main point for us was as a trust, we do have some real issues with psychological safety. You only need to read our CQC reports and anything perhaps that you'll understand where we are as a trust. We're not quite at that stage, I'd say, in order to give this to line managers and it not to be weaponized in any way. We have lots of issues that we are working on currently in our team, and based on that, that's kind of I guess influence us to change the way in which we approach using the tool altogether. And so for the second phase of the delivery of this and the testing of this, and I must note, coming back to what you were saying, this is a test. We are evaluating how we're going as we go through the process. We have delivered it slightly differently. So I'm just going to share my screen. So firstly, I think for us, it was all, can everyone see that all okay as well before I move on? And it's probably quite small, but I'm happy to share this. So for us, I took my actual background is actually consultancy as well. So I have a background in consultancy, and I have been developing as an OD practitioner over the last few years. So I very much have a contracting OD practitioner lens on the way in which we're delivering this tool. So the first point about this is that we do have many team leaders that quite honestly haven't had the training that they need. We are developing that, and we are working on that as at the moment, but they're not quite in the space to deliver the tool or have the confidence to deliver the tool. So we want to make sure that as a trust that we're supporting them in OD to ensure that they do have that confidence. So we're kind of looking at our delivery of TED as a journey. So if, as an example of this, it might be in their first TED that we've kind of RAG rated, and we love a RAG rating in the NHS. So it might be that there's some real difficulties in the team. We engage with our HRBPs, we have conversations with them, we use our staff survey results, And we've also developed an OD baseline that we use at the beginning just to kind of understand where that team is and what kind of support they need from us. And so we'll look at that and see they could be a red client, they could be an amber client, they could be green, and just going with it and using the tool as it's intended. And our idea is that eventually we hope with every single team leader that we work with, if they're in red in the beginning, it might be that they're red again for the second TED, but actually we'll be kind of relinquishing that support, I guess, as we go through the process, with the hope that eventually when it comes around that they'll be in this green area, and eventually we will just be a critical friend, and that BAU, that North Star that we were just talking about, of eventually having TED as that BAU piece. And so that's our main approach to working with different teams, and we've found so far that that's been incredibly effective. So we've had one of the things that I do as well, so part of the process is I have a conversation with the team leaders about the tool. When we did our first phase, we did a long piece of training for the team leader. We find that, again, going back to what you were saying about that virtual piece, as an ambulance service, we're spread across 2 counties. It's very difficult to get people in one room. Sorry, Emma, 3 counties, isn't it? So slightly another one. So we're spread across different counties. It's very difficult to get people in one room. So we very much, I've changed that process about how we train the team leader in terms of looking at the tool, and mostly because from our perspective, the tool is so simple and so easy, and I think the beauty of it is in its simplicity as well. So we want to make sure that they understand this is a simple process, because quite often with many initiatives that we get from NHS England, it becomes complex, and we have all of this kind of noise in our head, but actually this tool is so simple to use. So we kind of want to deliver it and ensure that they see this as a simple tool. And I think eventually we will use the tool as part of our kind of OD consultancy approach. So thinking about the OD models, OD practice, if any of you are familiar with Mian's OD practitioner guide, as part of the data collection, it could be that kind of understanding of where you are in the team, alongside focus groups or whatever it might be. TED might be the best tool that we use in order to get that overview of where they are as a team and understand what it is, what are those real issues going on in the team. And I guess in terms of my experience of the team this so far, so I've worked with quite a few teams. I've got 14 teams that I'm working with specifically. I've engaged with about 22 teams so far. I'd say when I've used the tool and we've helped facilitate the conversation, it's really been an OD, I think that's been an OD intervention in itself, having those open conversations. They're not used to having those conversations. So actually me being there, the team leader has commented that actually it's been really nice that we've supported them with that in order to have those conversations. But we've also got a mixed bag of support. So we have got team leaders in the organisation. I don't mean to put us in a bad light. We've got team leaders in the organisation that are in that green, and we are that critical friend. And again, that just having this tool to have those conversations for them has been really, really beneficial. It just opens up that door. So so this has been how we've been using the tool so far. We are evaluating this as we go along. We understand that also the tool is not a one-size-fits-all approach, and it might be that actually, right now I speak to a team leader and they say to me, oh yeah, it's a great tool, and then off they go, and they're not particularly interested. And that's okay, because actually we've got quite a lot of teams that are interested, and we're kind of developing that case study and we're feeling the tool ourselves to understand how that works. So yeah, so we've kind of gone around things in a little bit of a different way, but so far has been really effective. But another piece that has made this even more effective, that helps us really develop the tool, is actually through our our dashboard that has been created, and we have a client management system that's been created. So I'm gonna leave that for Emma to bring in now. So Emma, if you'd like to kind of show how we're managing that through the dashboard.
No problem, just bear with me, and I'm going to share my screen too. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Lovely. So as Shana has alluded to, we work across 3 counties, Surrey, Sussex and Kent, and it can be difficult to sort of know where everything is and what's happening at once, and to make sure that we were staying on track, especially as we're using the tool in the way we are, in such a hands-on approach initially, with the OD team sort of running the show on the majority. We wanted to have a client management system that meant that we were able to get that really quick overview of what was happening and be able to track progress for each of the TED clients that we've got. So the top of the dashboard is just, as I say, that quick overview, the number of diagnostics that we've got in process, how many teams are in the intervention stage, etc., etc. We're able to see a little bit more detail in this second graph, the number of clients by stage of the diagnostic process, so whether they're in preparation or they're in follow-up and facilitation, for example. We've also got the current diagnostics in progress by directorate, so we're able to see here which directorates are really taking the TED tool on and starting to use it perhaps more than the others. And Shana's client rating system that she created is also displayed here, so we're able to see that we've got 9 current clients in red, 3 in yellow and 1 in green. We're also able to access all the different parts of this system from here, but I'll go through them in a second. So then the next bit really is for our TED coaches, and mainly for Shana, because I have to say Shana deserves all of the credit for operationalising TED within our trust. She's really taken it on and is doing the majority of the work. But for our TED coaches, this is their area to be able to get that overview of where their clients are at. So this top one just lists all of the current clients and which cycle that they are in, which part of the cycle they're in. And then this is our tracker. So Shana's able to come here and have a look at medicine's governance, for example, and see that all of the green ones she has done and completed. All of those various different actions are done, such as introductory call, the TED briefing. Because of the way that we're doing it, we're not running that team leader training at the moment. It's more of a briefing and a discussion between the team leader and Shana, or the TED coach. And she's able to see that there should have been facilitation on the 11th of the 7th, but that hasn't been done yet. And I'm sure that as we go further into it, there'll be a note explaining why that's the case. So this just gives us that overview, and this is any that are currently in the diagnostic stage rather than have gone any further. And we're also able to see whether we've done that baselining with each team here too. And then this bit is that alternative to Outlook or diarising. So this automatically shows when things are due to happen. So you can see here that Shana hasn't got any introductory calls that are due in the next 14 days or any tool briefings, but there are some feedback sessions that are required, and there are still some that we need to collect some baseline data from. And then as we move down here, we can see which clients have been moved to the interventions log and which TED clients are due their next cycle in the next 60 days, so that we can start preparation for that. I have anonymised some of this data, so this will look a little bit different to Shana this morning. I've just taken the team names out, but this is our results overview, so that we can quickly see which teams are at the top of the TED score and which teams are at the bottom of the list of TED scores across the trust. We're also able to see the averages by directorate here, and then those 3 core breakdowns of team engagement, individual engagement and team effectiveness, the scores there as an average across the directorates. And then we've got our heat map here. Again, I've anonymised this data, but this is putting all of our scores together so far, so that we can start seeing whether there's any patterns in the data. And you can see that there is already a pattern occurring here in working with other teams, where the majority of the teams are in the orange, not in the green. Even this team 12 down here, who are green for everything else, but are orange in working with other teams. So this just helps us to pick up whether there's any patterns and whether there's anything else that we need to be paying attention to. This next section is not very fleshed out yet, and you can see some of it's not displaying correctly, but this is where we've got any interventions in progress, that would all be displayed here. Because they're all marked as scoping TED interventions at the moment, or designing interventions, that's why data is not showing, but this will help us to track what interventions we've used, whether we've used specific tools from the TED tool, etc. And then again down here, just any completed interventions and any interventions that are requiring further action. And then right at the bottom of our dashboard, we've got our way that we input our clients into the system. So this form is just a really quick and easy way, rather than fiddling with spreadsheets, for us to just come in, select client support rating if we already know it, the team name, contact, team manager or contact, etc. We enter all of the information we know and submit it, and it'll go into our client management system, and they'll appear on this dashboard. And similarly, we've got another form for the baseline data. So we collate all of our baseline data here when we're having that discussion with the team managers about where are they now. We've put all of that into a form on here, and again that all automatically then inputs into the system. Now, the way that all of this is populated is through a variety of different sheets. Can I get rid of you so I can see? Yeah, so this is just the larger version of that form. You can get to them separately, and that's the larger version of the baseline input form. This is what the actual client management system looks behind. So when you have filled out the TED clients form, the new TED client form, they all appear in here, and we're able to sort them by directorate. And this is where we tick off what's been done and what hasn't been done, and the dates that everything is due. If a client then moves to requiring interventions out of their TED tool, we can copy them to our interventions log. And once their cycle's complete and everything is done, we can move them out of here into our completed TED cycle sheet. And then very quickly, just to whiz you through, so this is our interventions log. You can see we've got the team name, we've got the TED support, the TED coach here, which is Shana, and then what status they're at. And then once we start using this more, we'll have tools and interventions here. So you can see we've put all of the TED ones into here as an option that you can select, and then we can also add in our own if we've done different ones, and any other notes, etc. And then our baseline data, once you've filled in that baseline form, all ends up in here. So we've got a central repository of all of the baseline data, so that we can go back to that and view it whenever we want, and review it with managers as we move through different TED cycles. And then the last bit is just the sheet to show you that this is what it will actually look like in the background. It's all on Smartsheet, which is a fancier version of Excel. I'm not sure whether any of you use it, but it's all in here, and very
Much
cleverly.
better than Excel.
Yeah. And then I've obviously then built this dashboard to display all of that information and keep us on track. So I think that's it for running you through the dashboard. But are there any questions about what Shana has said or what I've gone through with the dashboard? Becky?
Well, first of all, I'm just aghast at all of that. It's amazing. How do you get it? Do you take any downloads from the TED portal to then upload into the client management system, or is it all manually inputted?
I've deliberately kept the data, so the results, in exactly the same format as how it downloads from the TED portal. So when we download it as an Excel file, I can then just copy and paste it straight in there. We don't have to do anything else. In terms of the entering clients onto the system, we would do that manually. But as we've moved forward with it, and we've now got the baseline form there, it's sort of makes sense. You can enter them on and then have that baseline conversation at the same time, or at a very similar time. So it doesn't really feel too much more manual than it would be.
We use that form as well. I mean, because it looks like a form at the minute, and we're altering things. And as I said, we're evaluating things as we go along. So it's sort of, we're feeling it out and seeing how things go. But I'm very much using that form as more of a conversation with those managers. It creates that relationship, it gets that further buy-in. I get them to understand, where do they want to see themselves? And I'm going to have a conversation with you in 12 months' time. What you're saying, there's a significant concern with your turnover and sickness. What does that team look like? So that they understand that they've got a bit of responsibility to continue on with this. and also to see the tool as, okay, well, we've got that results, we'll look at this quickly, we're not going to wait 6 months to talk about the results, we've got it instantly. So let's have a look at what over the next 6 months what that's going to look like, and also not using to beat them with a stick with it. If it isn't quite where it needs to be, that's okay. Let's think of a way in which, let's understand why and move forward so that eventually that will not look like that. So and hopefully, and so far so good. So yeah.
It's amazing.
So
The other question I had was around the actual system. So did you get this specifically in for TED, or is it something you're already using within the organisation that you've kind of bolted on the TED aspect to it?
No, so we use Smartsheet as an organisation for all of our action plans. So whether it be a strategy delivery plan or any other trust level action plan, we use it for that. The reason being that it is so much more advanced than Excel, and it has many automations in it and update requests and all of that kind of stuff to get people to update things. And I just happened to start using Smartsheet a lot and building a lot of things for different teams across the organisation, and then learn how to build the dashboards. If you have a Smartsheet license, you're able to build dashboards as part of it. I don't know about the cost of Smartsheet, I'm afraid, because it was our IT department that purchased it, but it's a really good tool.
Thank you so much, Emma. I do think as well, so I know that we do bespoke interventions. So those red teams, we absolutely have that kind of approach. We probably don't articulate it the way you did. So that's really good to see, Shana, how you've written that down. We've used Planner previously. So once a week, we all come together and everybody updates the planner and where we've moved teams forward. We've been using, it's in tool MS Teams, isn't it, Lee? But I do think that is a much more sophisticated, and that idea of automation and like sort of regular reminders would be really useful for us. I think obviously you've described really openly, thank you so much, around where you're up to, and in terms of almost like sort of the capability of maybe some of your line managers and how they probably do need that support. We've got those people who need our support as well, and we use our staff survey to help us identify that. So that's been really helpful for us, I think, Lee, hasn't it, as well, because we are just looking at how do we start. We've just created a dashboard in Excel, but I think one to take away to our deputy director, I think. Watch this space.
I have to say it is life-changing, and especially coming from a consultancy prior my HR work, having something like that really does help you keep on track, because there are a lot of plates spinning. So
we use it for all sorts of things as a team. I've just recently built our team, our inclusion learning and OD team, what we've called the resilience and planning dashboard, which collates all of our core states events that we're running and our annual leave into a calendar, so you can see it all in one place. It does all sorts of stuff, and I should have mentioned that within the automations on Smartsheet, say Shana was extremely busy and things were getting on top of her and she hadn't had time to check the dashboard, you can set up automations so that Smartsheet will send you an alert saying, oh, you're out of time on this, or you're going to be out of time on this in a few days. So it gives you that automated prompt. It is a really good tool.
Great, thank you so much. So just opening it up to any questions. I recognise that we haven't had a break, so we will take a short break in a moment. But whilst we have Shana and Emma, was there any other questions, thoughts, or comments? Oh, we've got Kerry's mentioned you've got use of Smartsheets in your organisation. Oh, brilliant. Or maybe we could go and talk to our transformation project teams. I like that. I did put in the chat, Emma, can I pay you to develop our dashboard? Let's have an offline conversation, perhaps. I
love a bit of Smartsheet and a little bit of dashboard building, so I'm sure we can work something out.
So I won't be pinching you. I'm only joking. No, brilliant. Honestly, really incredible. Both aspects, I think, has really added some great value to our thinking. So thank you for sharing. I can't see any more questions in the chat, so I'm going to pause there. So I do often like to set you a task during this time, but obviously appreciate this is your time. If you don't feel like you have to stick to the task, it's just an opportunity to get the conversations going, I suppose. We're going back to a truly well-loved one. Hopefully most people are aware of this analogy, but just in case, I am going to redo a fresher. So the purpose of the activity in your breakout rooms is just to continue our focus on sharing learning. It's all around enabling pace and scale with your TED rollout, and that a chance to really explore what your priorities are, opportunities, and any challenges. So as I said, you've probably come across this, but just in case, this is the rocks, pebble and sand activity. I think it's Covey who is first penned this. So the jar is yourself, your work, things that you've got to get done. The rocks are the most sort of high priority projects and tasks that are going to be linked to your success. The pebbles are urgent or important tasks or projects that will make a difference to your success. And the sand are those sort of low priority tasks, unimportant projects or elements that just really take up maybe quite a lot of your time. And if I'm honest, this is probably me at the moment. I have been very much focused on some sand tasks, really probably not doing in the last few weeks anyway. I feel like I've not been getting to my big rocks. And as you might know, Stephen Covey talks about, if the big rocks don't go in first, then they're not going to fit in later. So in your time today, what I'd like you to do is go into your breakout rooms, and we're going to use a Jamboard if it's helpful, but don't feel like you have to. There's one per room. It just changes there to room 2. So the link's in the chat if you want to open it now so we don't get lost. And you just navigate to a different page. If someone's already on your page, just move through to another page. And it's just asking you to share what your rocks are, what you feel your pebbles are, and maybe what the sand is. And there's just a little reminder of the concept there, and then an opportunity to talk and share. And if we do have time, we'll come back together and share back. But I do think we might just be a little bit behind today, and I'd rather give you the opportunity to chat in the breakout rooms. So I'm just going to ask for a few thumbs up that the link is working for you and that the task is clear. Fabulous. Now here comes the really special thing where I attempt to do breakout rooms. So I'm just going to do it randomly. I don't know who you're with. If you do find that you're with everybody from your own team and you want to swap, do come back out. So I'm going to put you into 3 groups and off you go. Welcome back, everyone. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
How did we get on? You all right, Lee?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, some really good points and good discussions. And it's interesting to think around how sometimes these sorts of things, when we talk about the rocks, the big projects we want to get done, the pebbles or sort of smaller things which are important, and the bits of sand, they're equally as relevant at an organisational level as they are at a team level as well. And it's these sorts of discussions that can be really useful for teams as well as us at an org level. And Becky was suggesting how this is a great activity perhaps for teams undergoing the team leader training, to think about around how TED's perhaps one of those big rocks that you want to get done, but what could be the other little things that if you prioritize them first could get in the way and could hamper your success with something like TED.
I did watch like a really old video. I don't know how long it was for, whenever it was first done, of Stephen doing the little analogy, and it really is like, it's back to basics, isn't it, for OD? I'm sure it's one that we've talked about and used before, but I do think watching that video, I still like, yeah, this is it. This is so important. So I will maybe share that video in the follow-up just because I enjoyed it. Because we've gone over a little bit, we haven't got the opportunity that we might do normally, which is kind of share key takeaways and things like that. So I suppose just a quick throwing it out there, we've got 2 or 3 minutes before we say cheerio. Is there anybody who does want to just share some reflection, something that might have prompted during those conversations, or any key takeaways, just kind of an open invitation for anyone to do any roundups, any follow-ups from today? Okay. Long That's fine. Well, I will take us through to our final steps. And as I said earlier on, Lee and I always just stay behind for a few minutes at the end. So if anybody has any key questions, we'll be here. Doobie-doobie-doo. There we go. Right, Lee, are you okay to walk us through the next steps?
Yeah, absolutely. So as always, what we'll be doing following today's session, we'll collate the things that you've put in your Jamboards, definitely all your comments and things today. I think there's been some great discussions today. It's really encouraging for me to see the innovation that's going on across different trusts. Massive thank you to our colleagues at East Lancs and South East Ambulance Coast. So some great examples of different types of innovation that's going on with TED. So we'll be collating that and sharing it with you along with the video from today's session as well, so you can dip back into things and listen back to some of those answers to questions that have been given. We'll also, as I said, on the TED website, all those toolkits that I showed you will be available on the TED website. As always, we'll be continuing our client catch-up meetings, so myself, Sam and Jude will be arranging those with you if you haven't already got them in the diary, to just help you keep that momentum. So if you've specific things you want to ask us, we've got those, but don't feel you have to wait to those. Do get in touch with us, and we'll help wherever we can. Our ask for you is continue to engage, share your learning successes. We've had some great examples today, but we're always keen to learn those bits of innovation, things you're trying, things you've learned. As Sam said before, you won't always get it right first time. So if you don't, let us know what you've learned and then we can share that right across the collaborative. It's such a rich resource that we've got here, and we're so encouraged by the stories that you share and the conversations that we have in these sessions. And the big ask, keep your eyes out for those stories and case studies, because that really does help us illustrate how TED works in different settings, how different approaches have worked for different types of teams, and we want to get as many of those as possible, because that helps us all in terms of getting that momentum, convincing teams that TED's the right thing to do and what's the best process to take. So keep your eyes open for those, and as always, keep us informed and we'll help in any way that we can.
I'll, as I said earlier, in the follow-up email, I'll pop on some of those case studies as soon as I've definitely checked that everyone's happy for me to share them. I do think they're really useful. Oh, thank you, Janet. Yes, that would be brilliant. I will pop them in the package. So it might be sort of Thursday afternoon, looking at my diary, when you get all of these documents, but don't worry, they will be sent out to you. And just if you are part of our pilot with the national pilot with NHS England, if you are coming up to the end of your first year, there will be some ask around sharing some evaluation. So just to have that on your mind, potentially getting a couple of teams who perhaps did a TED a while ago to do a repeat TED would be a really good opportunity now in preparation for that. I think probably be sometime in December where I need to submit a little update. So I will let you know more about that very soon.
Yeah, so then just to signpost you to our upcoming events, as always, we'll be having our monthly coffee catch-ups, which are your main way to come along to us, ask any questions. We always have some great discussions in those sessions. You can listen to what other trusts are doing and share your own approaches. So we've ones in September, October and November. They will continue monthly. Our lunch and learns, now we did just want to have a sense check. Our feedback last year was that you'd appreciate a bit of space, because we know we're coming into staff survey season. A lot of you will be having a big push on that in September and October, definitely as it comes up, and then while the survey's live as well. So our sense check last year was that we'll put a hold on the lunch and learns and just keep the coffee catch-ups going. So I just wanted to ask if I could have a thumbs up if you feel that's the right approach, or if not, if there's something else specific you'd like us to cover, we'd be more than happy to put one on. So any thoughts on that? Would you like to just give us a thumbs up if you're happy with that approach? Yeah, getting a few through. Fab. That's
of
great.
course,
Thank
get
you.
in touch. You know, we will still be doing
Yeah.
our client catch-ups. And sorry, Lee.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. So we're not going anywhere. We're still here, and like I say, the coffee catch-ups will still be running. We're still here if you need to get in touch with us about anything specific. And our next sort of main event will be our November quarterly deep dive. We'll be coming right to the end of the staff survey window at that point, but we'll use that as our last quarterly deep dive of the year to sort of reflect on where we've come this year, some of those great stories that you've shared with us, and to really celebrate the success that we're having with TED. Oh, Freddie, did you have your hand up briefly there? Oh no, you're clapping. Thanks, Freddie. Lovely.
In terms of content for the November one, you know, we might want to look at staff survey in terms of how you use that next step and start pre-thinking about that using TED as your follow-up. So if there's anything else that you want us to focus on at the November quarterly deep dive or any kind of sharing, do get in touch. And thank you so much.